Hey guys, so a few months ago I did my top 100 characters I think they should add to The Simpsons Tapped Out. And I considered doing a top 100 buildings they should add to The Simpsons Tapped Out, but I found it a bit boring, you know. It's difficult to kind of rank which buildings I want the most. And definitely there are some buildings on this list there's some buildings that aren't on this list that I definitely would want more than some of the buildings I've shown on this list. But basically what I decided to do instead was actually take the 100 characters that I had in my last top 100 characters video. So it's the same characters. However, I've added a building that they could come with. So instead of just, adding 10 random or 100 random buildings that I really want and, sort of listing them in an order, I've instead decided to take the characters that obviously I want in the game that I've already gone through and add a building to that character that I would like to be included with them. So yeah, it's a fun way of doing top 100 buildings, not actually doing my top 100. There are some ones, if you look at my old sort of top 10 buildings I think they should add, there's a lot of buildings that still to this day have not been added that I definitely would want. Some of those, just to name a few that aren't on this list, is like the Kentucky Fried Panda. I think it's a really funny building. I would like to see that in the game. Kent Brockman's Mansion is one I definitely would like to see, which we still haven't got. So yeah, there are some buildings that I would like that aren't on this list. But let's get into it. Starting off, we have Disco Shrew with the Island Disco. So this obviously doesn't appear in the Dr. Hibbert thing. Dr. Hibbert's island. This disco doesn't appear. I think this appears in, oh god, where is it? Is it Puerto Rico or something like that? A different country anyway that they go to. And yeah, I just think it's called Island Disco. Disco Shrew, and obviously they're from an island, Dr. Hibbert's island. I think it makes sense. It's a good combo, I think. So, yeah, that's my first one. Then we have Walrus Homer. I think a good one for him to come with is Aquatraz Water Park. I think that could be funny. It's a good combination. Walrus Homer with a water park. Makes sense. Surly Joe. Oh, I really wanted to find like a building. The only one I could think of was the Builder's Barn building. But really, the one thing, this is where I'm going to make an exception just for this one. And there's a few others down the line where I've made an exception. This one, I really think it probably would be best if he comes with his repair van. So we don't see his van in full, it kind of pans over, but basically he has like a little van with his logo on the side. I think that would be the best thing to come with Surly Joe, to be honest. Rabbi Rudenstein obviously would come with Temple Beth Western, the other synagogue in Springfield. Obviously makes sense. Emily Winthrop would obviously come with Emily Winthrop's Canine College. Again, makes sense. Gabriel, he's a tricky one because he doesn't really get seen with a building. I feel like Divorce Law Specialist could be a good building for him to come with, just because he kind of is like counselor vibe. I think maybe that building would make somewhat sense for him to come with. So, yeah. Again, though, he's a tricky one. I feel like he would have to be a prize track character, really. But if they wanted to add him with a building, I think this one could work. Mr. Ty would obviously come with Utah Now, which is the restaurant that he owns and runs. Colin, a bit of a tricky one. Giant's Causeway, maybe. Just a random Irish or Irish. I guess this one would be a decoration, or it could be a building. It could be either or. I'd be fine with it being either or. But yeah, it's just a place in Ireland, really, that he could come with. I don't think we know exactly where in Ireland he's from, so, or at least I couldn't see anything online, and I couldn't be bothered going back and watching the movie just to find the perfect Irish thing for him to come with. But yeah, any sort of Irish thing makes sense for him to come with. Or he could possibly come with the toxic waste dump place that we see in the film as well. I think that one could be a decent combo. Howard Jr. and Sr. I think a good one for them would be Future Howard's Flowers, obviously. We've already got Howard's Flowers in the game. So Future Howard Flowers, which is just this big tower. That makes sense, I feel like, for both of them to come with. Or just one of them to come with, and the other one could be the prize track. St. Peter, I feel like the Gates of Heaven would be the best one for him to come with, obviously, because this is where his little stand is. Yeah, so I think Gates of Heaven should be just like a separate decoration or building, either one really, and he should come with that, because obviously he can have animations with his little podium. Joe, This one's a tricky one. I went with the capital city Duff Bury. Now, although he's from Shelbyville, I just feel like it makes sense for him to come with something beer related if they were to add him. So, yeah, capital city Duff Bury. Maybe he's picking up a shipment. Maybe we could have that in the quest line, because obviously in the episode they say that Shelbyville doesn't have Duff, it has something else with a different name. So, yeah, maybe he's like, oh no, Duff is like really, really popular, so I went to Capital City to pick it up. I didn't want to go to the Springfield Brewery, though, I don't want to be seen as a traitor. Something like that could be like a way to get around it. Timothy Lovejoy Sr., Girls, Girls, Girls. He obviously was seen at Bella's mansion, so he's obviously into that sort of scenery. So this sort of strip club makes sense for him to come with, in my opinion. Girls, Girls, Girls. Dan Gillick would While You Wail ear piercings, which is a stand, so this probably would have to be a decoration. They could make it a building. I mean, it's tricky. I think I'd be okay with it being a building, but might not be very consistent with other sort of standees we've got in the past. But yeah, this is obviously what he does after he quits the mafia. He seemed to be doing ear piercings for people, so yeah, it makes sense for him to come with this because this is business. The Hibbert kids. So, obviously, there's 3 of them. So, I was going to do 3 buildings, but I figured I would do 2. Just because if they were to add the Hibbert kids in like an update, I feel like they would have to have 1 prize track, 1 premium, 1 super premium, or something like that. So, JJ and his daughter either of them could come with the house, the Hibbert house, which we see here. Obviously, we would like to see the Hibbert house in the game. Makes sense to add it in the game, so one of the kids could come with it. And then for the Hibbert's older son, the Spaghetti Laboratory, which he mentions that he wants to go to. Literally in this scene, he mentions how he wants to go to the Spaghetti Laboratory. Now, the Spaghetti Laboratory is actually only mentioned. We never see it in the actual show. However, we do see it in Hit and Run, which is right here. Now, there is an issue, though. Hit and Run is technically not owned by EA, so they could not rip this from the game. So I feel like they would have to just make a sort of tapped out original for the Spaghetti Laboratory if they wanted to do it, which is possible as well. The Mugger, honestly, any prison. I've just picked this one, Campbell's Chunky Suit Maximum Security Prison, just because it's got a really funny name. He could come with that. It's a really cool prison, like an Alcatraz type prison, which we could get in the water as a building. And yeah, he makes sense to come with it, just because he's a criminal. Professor Lombardo, the Springfield Community College, makes sense for him to come with. Obviously, he was Marge's art teacher, right, I think. So it makes sense for him to come with the community college, obviously. For Tammy, the Museum of Suffering, obviously she's seen going there with the other ladies, so it makes sense just because she's seen going to that building. Jenny, obviously Jenny's house, which we can see right here. That one makes perfect sense to me. The ballet teacher could come with the Springfield Performing Arts Center. Now you may be thinking, hey, this looks very similar. Doesn't this look similar to the community center or the other center? Yeah, it does. There's a community center. What's the one that Llewellyn Sinclair comes with? Community center. Or is that the community center? There's 2 of them in the game already, but there's this one, and although it probably is meant to be the same building, it has a different name. It's called the Performing Arts Center. So yeah, it would be a very similar building that we've already got in the game, but it is still a separate building nonetheless, so that could come with a ballet teacher. Toshiro could obviously come with Sushi Yes, which is another sushi restaurant in Springfield. Again, in the questline, they could just say that he's got a new job. He's quit Akira. He's done with Akira, so that could make sense. For the Master Sushi Chef, Tokyo Rose Sushi Bar. Again, another sushi bar in the game. Obviously, this is the one that Mo sets up when he has, renovates Mo's to be a different thing. So he could come with that, and they probably would make it a building just because Uncle Mo's is a separate building. Buddy Hodges could come with the Museum of Television and TV. Obviously, he is Fallout Boy. He's the actor who played Fallout Boy, so it makes sense that he would go to the Museum of Television and TV, obviously because of the Radioactive Man television series. So, yeah, that one makes sense to me. Les Moore could come with Les Moore's compound and house, his little no-kill kennel, I guess it's called. Which would obviously make sense for him to come with, because that's where he lives and works. Helen Feesh, So Helen Feesh is a difficult one. Obviously, she's the church organist. So I feel like the best thing for her to come with really would be the church organ as like a set, as like a decoration. And I know it's an interior, so we don't always like interiors, but I think with the church organ, it makes sense just for her to come with, just so she can have those animations with it as well. So I think the best thing for her to come with would be the church organs. But if they really wanted to add it with a building, I think something like Suicide Notes or like a rock, something rock based, just because I remember the Bart Sells His Soul one where she does that like rock song, or I think it's a rock song that she performs on the organ. So that could be like a funny thing that they could do, add it with like something like Suicide Notes, and maybe she's like into rock now. She's done with church music. She likes hardcore rock and roll. Seth and Muchie obviously would come with the Groovy Grove, a natural farm, which you can see right there on the right. They could add the buildings separately, so they could add like the Groovy Grove farmhouse, the Groovy Grove barn, and the shed, obviously, that's here that has the Homer J. Simpson on the side of it there, the Muriel shed, they could call it. So they could add them as like separate sort of buildings, which I'd be cool with as well. So one could come with like the farmhouse, one could come with the barn, and then they could add the shed as like as a decoration. Royce Lumpkin. So Royce Lumpkin could come with the Royal King Trailer Park, which is of course where Lurleen lives. And inside this building, they could show Lurleen's trailer, which is right here. Or, if they wanted to, they could add it separately and have Royce Lumpkin just come with Lurleen's trailer. But personally, I would want them to either add this one as a building and this one as a building / decoration, or combine the two and just have the trailer be seen inside the trailer park. Either one, I think I'd be fine with. For Joey Crusher and Low Blow, I feel like Burns' Hampton Manor is a good shout, just because they're Burns' guards. Now, Burns' Hampton Manor is arguably kind of in the game, because obviously we have Burns' summer mansion that's in the game, and during the Great Fatsby tie-in, they re-added the Burns' summer mansion, and kind of pretended like that was the same mansion that's in the episode. But really, if you look at the two, they don't really look similar at all, at least in my opinion. I think this one's very different. So for me personally, I would want them to add Burns' Hampton Manor as a separate building, just because I do think it looks very different to the other one. And this one could come with these two. So Oinks A Lot, obviously he is the mascot for Springfield A&M, which is the other university in Springfield. So obviously it makes sense for him to come with that building. Now we don't really see it, we only really see the sign, but they can design it. Evelyn Peters could come with Chanel, which is the Chanel store, obviously where Marge considers buying a new suit here, but obviously she couldn't afford it because she originally got it from that discount store. So it makes sense for her to come with the Chanel store, in my opinion. However, there is an issue with copyright. They probably would have to rename it, which they've done in the past anyway. They'll just have to give it a different name. Obviously, in my video for this kind of episode, I called it Pennell. So something like that. You just give it a different name, and you can add this building. Cyrus Simpson could come with the Tahiti hut, which obviously he's seen bathing outside. This is his little house, I guess, where all of his wives and children stay. So yeah, this one makes sense obviously to come with him. Or he could just come with the whole Tahiti island, which either one really I'd be cool with. Dr. Babcock could come with the Pillow Factory. Obviously he's seen here using the Pillow Factory. I think Barney flies into it actually, but you could make it make sense like he's doing experiments in the film, the Pillow Factory. So yeah, Jack Stillwater could come with Cape Canaveral, however you call it, formerly Cape Kennedy, formerly Cape Arbuckle. Yeah, so it's just the NASA base that they're at. So obviously that makes sense. Mervin Monroe could come with the Happy Sailor, obviously the building that he owns and works in. Now, the Happy Sailor is, of course, a mall building, but they've done it before where they've added it as a mall buildings, as actual buildings. And this one might be a bit difficult just because it's quite plain looking on the outside, but I'm sure they could make it work. Nibbles and Mrs. Nibbles. So I've got two things for them to come with. The first one is obviously Pet Shop, which makes sense. They're both hamsters, so it makes sense for them to come with a pet shop. And the other one is the HJS rocket, which of course is the rocket that Nibbles gets launched out of. Wait, is it this one or is it a different rocket? Anyway, the rocket that Nibbles gets launched out of, that rocket. I might have got the wrong rocket there because I don't think the nerds were there in that episode. King Toot could come with Music World. Obviously, it wouldn't be nice if he comes with King Toots, but obviously he can't. However, this Music World obviously gets robbed during the Riot episode, so I feel like it could make sense like King Toot like robbed this place, or was robbing this place during the blast, you know? I always like to think of like the buildings as where the characters were during the blast, but like maybe King Toot was literally just like, that could be like the excuse. He's like robbing instruments to help his business from other music stores. Joey Jojo Shabadoo could come with Flaming Moe's now here, which is obviously one of the many different Flaming Moe places that opens up after Flaming Moe's kind of the formula gets leaked. So yeah, just a building that you could come with, to be honest. Smitty could come with Smitty's Bar. Now, this is like a really out there one. But there's a bar in Springfield, only very briefly seen in the background, called Smitty's Bar. And obviously this guy's called Smitty. So I was thinking, maybe Tapped Out can make the connection and like kind of do this almost like Tapped Out exclusive story where Smitty, after working in the power plant, like on weekends or, you know, at nights, he works after his shift at the power plant. He works at his bar and he runs a bar. Because that could be like a really cool way. I really like it when they elevate on Tapped Out characters. Like, for example, with Daisy McGunnan and, what's his name? Not Wolfguard Jack, what's his name? Wolf the Bounty Hunter. They kind of made those two like in a relationship, and they sort of like they've been having troubles in their relationship or whatever. And I like that. I like how they've taken these kind of two very minor characters, one blink and you miss it, and one very minor character, and they've kind of given them this like backstory where they're involved. And I feel like it could be cool if they did the same with Smitty and like with the Smitty's Bar. So yeah, that's why I picked that. Smilin Joe Fission could come with the Springfield nuclear power plant. Fair, I guess. I think maybe just they could add all these different things like separately, like the plutonium rods and the Burns bouncy castle and all that. They could all add them all separately, or they could just add it as like a big combined building. I think I'd be fine with either. Obviously, we see the actual mascot version of Smilin Joe Fission in that episode. I couldn't be bothered to go back and get the picture, but yeah, obviously have the mascot version of him, not the actual crappy little cartoon version, which is here. The actual version where we see him as a mascot. 62, Jack Marley, obviously with the Springfield Nuclear Power Plant cafeteria. Now, I know he doesn't actually work at the nuclear power plant anymore, but again, they could make something work, like he's now working in the cafeteria. That's the only job they would allow him to have, because they forced him into retirement as like an actual power plant person. So maybe he's working in the cafeteria or something. They could do something like that. Mrs. and Mr. Sampson could come with the Sampson house, which we see right here. Obviously, that one makes sense for them to come with, both of them to come with. Brad Goodman could... Oh, this was a tricky one, because I wanted to find like a bookstore for him to come with, obviously, because he's kind of like a novelist. Now, there is that golden statue of him, which, again, he could come with as well. I'd be fine with that, but I wanted to find a building. The only one I could really find, this is kind of like in the Springfield Glen County area, so it's kind of a posh bookstore. It's called the Bookseller. So... yeah, it is a very background building, but it makes sense, kind of like a posh, you know, like he's doing a book signing there or something, you know, as a reason as to why he's there, sort of thing. The Khlav Kalash Man, obviously, the one that makes sense is Khlav Kalash, which is the big, so obviously his business takes off and it becomes this big-ass building in New York, which you can see right there. Obviously, that makes sense for him to come with that. Juliet Hobbs, makes sense for her to come with the Hobbs house, which we see here. Francine could come with the Springfield Science Institute, which we see here. Obviously, it's the 12th annual big science thing, but this is like a science institute. They could just call it the Springfield Science Institute. Makes sense, really. And obviously, she can come there, because obviously they're trying to figure out what kind of makes a bully there. So, makes sense for her to come with that. Dr. Foster could just come with the mental institution. This is just a random mental institution, but obviously he works at Carnwood. Obviously, Carnwood's already in the game, though, so you can't add him with that, so... this is the next best thing, just another random mental institution even. Grizzly Sean, alternative knife styles. It's just I know he's a gay guy and I'm putting him with a building in the gay neighborhood, but we don't really know that much about him, so this just makes sense to me. Yeah, alternative knife styles. It's obviously a knife store in the gay neighborhood in Springfield, so yeah, makes sense for him to go with that. Freddy, the Land of Forevermore. We don't know anything about Freddy. He is just a random background child. So, the Land of Forevermore is just a children's bookstore. Maybe it is too young for Freddy's age, but whatever. I figured it's just it's random, but it's not, you know, it doesn't make completely no sense as that combination. Chloe Talbot, obviously Springfield Press Club, which she's seen going at, so that one makes sense for her to come with. Cooder and Spud could come with any real building from the Colonel Texans Traveling Carnival. Now, there's actually like tons of buildings in there. Their actual ring toss that they work at is already in the game, so they can't come with that, sadly. But they could just come with, like, if they wanted to, they could add like the Colonel Texans Traveling Carnivals, like a big sort of like, 8-in-1 or 9-in-1 or 10-in-1 building. They could do it something like that, or they could add the individual buildings in that in the carnival as separate things. Obviously, again, a lot of them we already have, like the Tooth Chipper and stuff like that. But yeah, something like that. A building from there. Obviously, I did a whole carnival event. If you want to go check that video out, it's very similar to the circus event, kind of. But if you want to go check out my carnival event video, go check that out, and you could see a bunch of different things that these guys could come with. Maya makes sense to come with Maya's house, which is here, obviously. That one's easy. Apu's mother could come with this temple. This is the temple that Charlie gets shooted to, so Charlie could also come with this temple as well. I think I'd be fine with either of them. Apu's mother's a bit tricky because I know it's bad, and I did the same with Colin, but it's just like they're from a different country, so it makes sense for them just to come with a random building from said country. And this is just a temple in India that Charlie gets shooted to, obviously. Yeah, she could just come with that. Or it might be an actual building. Let me know if it is meant to be based on an actual building, if anyone's familiar with Indian landmarks and buildings. Because I don't think it's anything. I had a quick look and I couldn't see. It didn't really look like anything I could see from the top suggestions. But yeah, she could just come with this temple. Obviously, she's a Hindu, so it makes sense that she would be going there to worship or whatever. Yeah. Bubbles could come with the honeypot or his car, either or really. Bubbles is a difficult one, just because there isn't any actual building that we've from the Happy Little Elves segments. But the honeypot is kind of like this big thing that they all kind of gather around. So I feel like you could, at a stretch, make that a building. And obviously in the little cartoon, the Logo Mania segment that it airs at the end of one of the episodes, we see him in his little car, which is right here. So he could come with that as well. Malibu Stacy makes sense to come with Petrochem, which is where Malibu Stacy is made, obviously. It's weird that we haven't got this factory in the game yet, but yeah, this is obviously where Malibu Stacy is made, so it makes sense for her to come with that. Carl, the Executives building, makes sense. I know there's Robert Marlowe, who obviously probably would make more sense just because he's seen in the building, but I want Carl in the game more than that guy, so I'd be happy for Carl to come with this building. Scott Christian, so this was a difficult one, but something I've actually thought about is we have the Channel 6 building in the game, but we've never actually got the Channel 6 studios. Now, I know that this is more just of a older version of what Channel 6 was, but like we have like the Channel 6 studios with the little booth here, and also this big Channel 6 sort of tower as well. I kind of want something like that. Like, can we not have more stuff for Channel 6, like the Channel 6 studios? Because I feel like that one little building, I don't know. I feel like we should have more. I feel like the studios could be like an extra part. Just call it Channel 6 Studios, and you could add it on your design of Channel 6. I don't see what the problem with that would be. I think that would be a pretty cool little add-on for that building, just to make it bigger. Sanjay's daughter. So Sanjay's daughter could come with the Calcutta Technical Institute, which we see right here. I know this one's worse because she's born in America, or at least I think she's born in America, and I'm putting it with an Indian building, but oh god, it's like we don't know anything about her really, so it's difficult. The only thing I can think of as an excuse is that's where her uncle went to study, so maybe Sanjay has sent her there to study as well. That's the only way I can justification I can think of. Quimby's bodyguards makes sense coming with the Springfield Municipal Building, which we see here. It's kind of a government building, obviously, that Quimby's been seen in, so it makes sense for those two to come with that. Madame Wu could come with the Beijing Orphanage. Obviously, that's where she works, so that makes sense. The Human Fly has to come with the skyscraper that he scales in the episode. Obviously, we just call it big skyscraper. That's all you have to call it, really. And add it with a human fly. And obviously, he can have animations on that building as well, which would be awesome. Bob Arnold could come with the Kennedy Center, which we see right here. So yeah, that makes sense. Clancy Bouvier could come with the Bouvier house. Obviously, there's like 3 different versions of the Bouvier house, but this is just one. This is just like the one that the wiki page shows, so that's the one I've picked. But yeah, it could come with any version of the Bouvier house, to be honest. Beatrice Simmons could come with Grandma's World, which is right here. Obviously, she's not seen in the building, but Grandpa goes there after to sort of buy something to remember her. So yeah, makes sense. After she dies, obviously. Myra could come with the teacher's holding facility. Yeah, I think this is a good combination. Just because Myra is like she's a receptionist, I know, but we could kind of say that she works there as well. You know, as the receptionist for the teaching holding facility, or we could say that she's gone there because she's hit a kid. Either or, really. Doug the cameraman could come with Ginormous Pictures, or he could just come with any building, really, any sort of film-related building. To be honest, he's kind of like he's used as a cameraman for like so much. So like we see him do like reality, we see him do films, news. Like he's quite utilized quite a lot. So Ginormous Pictures makes sense for me. But any sort of building like that. Golem of Prague makes sense to come with the. I guess it's Prague, the ancient. Oh, you should call it ancient synagogue. The ancient synagogue, which is where he was created, so that one makes sense. This is the building where he's created. Cowboy Bob obviously has to come with Bob's RV roundup, which we see here. J. Loren Pryor. I feel like any sort of child psychiatrist. We obviously have like a whole like psychiatrist row of buildings. But obviously this is the main one, the child psychiatrist one here. He could just come with that. It makes sense. Obviously he's a child psychiatrist. So it makes sense he comes with this building. Mrs. Albright, I feel like a good building for her to come with is Onward Christian Schoolboys Academy. Now, we know that she's a Sunday school teacher. However, we don't really know what her day job is, because you can't really just work as a Sunday school teacher. That's like 1 day a week. So I wonder what she is. And I think a good thing that they could do, or a good thing that they could write in, is that she's a school teacher. And she works at the school that Rod and Todd go to, which is the Onward Christian Schoolboys Academy. Makes sense. Obviously, they're the same denomination of Christian, so yeah. Cora obviously has to come with Cora's Diner. There's no other building she could come with. Mr. and Mrs. Vanderbilt. I tried to get 2, but I really couldn't find anything for Mrs. Vanderbilt. She's just so odd. Any sort of posh clothing store or anything. Even those, though, they just don't fit to me. But definitely one that come with Mr. Vanderbilt is the Hendrix Monocle Shop, just because he has a monocle. Now, they could add these 2 as a 2-in-1, or they could just add them as like 2 separate characters with the same building, like a combo. I don't think I would like these guys to be 2-in-1, just because I feel like Mrs. Vanderbilt does stand out away from Mr. Vanderbilt, and plus Mrs. Vanderbilt makes way more appearances than Mr. Vanderbilt. But I think it would make sense for them to come together as like a combo. So like if they were to add Hendrix Monocle Shop and just both of the characters get unlocked with it, I'd be cool with that. Laney Fontaine, obviously Springfield Playhouse. That one makes perfect sense. We definitely need. This is the building that we definitely need in the game because we've seen it quite a few times. And Laney Fontaine is definitely a character we need to see. In terms of like big modern characters, she's one of the biggest modern characters that we still haven't got in the game. And actually a modern character I actually really enjoy, so it would be cool to see her. The Cracker Factory Man. The only thing that I can really think of that would make sense for him would be the cracker, salt, and cracker meal silos that we see. Debatable if you could make these ones buildings. Probably not. They would have to be decorations, but still, it's something for him to come with. Jake could obviously come with Snippy long stockings. Now, obviously, he has Jake's unisex hair palette place, but we also see in 22 short films about Springfield that he also works at Snippy long stockings. Now, whether or not they're meant to be the same barbershop is kind of irrelevant, just because either way, we can have this as a separate building. And yeah, why not? It's a way to get Jake. Flybar, this is the worst one, because honestly, I feel like Flybar should just be a prize track character, full stop. I don't think he really should be premium, because I don't think there's any good building for him to come with. But if they really wanted to, I thought of this, Germ Warfare Laboratory. You know, he's kind of a pest. If you know what I mean, a fly is a pest. Maybe he's been used, it's a germ warfare fly. You could use that as like a warfare kind of thing. It's a loose connection, but I feel like you could make it work with a quest line. So yeah, but honestly, I feel like Flybot should just be a Prize Track character. Steve Mobs. This one, I hate this one because they've added the Maple HQ and they've added obviously the Maple store. There is the Maple store that's inside the mall, which does look very different to the Maple store that's outside the mall. But honestly, I don't think I'd be okay with them adding a second Maple store that looks a bit different. So honestly, Offshore Money, which we see right next to the Maple HQ, is the only thing I got, and this is a decoration. I know it's boring. State Controller Atkins. Honestly, you can come with any Springfield that's you can come with any school that's inside Springfield or Shelbyville, really. Or Capital City. I think Capital City is meant to be in the same state as Springfield, right? But Springfield West Elementary, which we see right here, looks exactly like Springfield Elementary, but Springfield West Elementary. Now, this could also come with Theo, what's his name? The boy that Lisa falls in love with for like 2 minutes. That guy. Obviously, it may probably make more sense to come with that kid just because it's the only other building he could come with. But if they wanted to add something for his State Comptroller Atkins, I feel like this building could be one. But like I said, any building, any school really, or any educational facility, I should say, in Springfield or Shelbyville, or I also think Capital City's Ogdenville in the same state. I'm not even sure. But any sort of school really he could come with. Emma, aka Senor Bumblebee Man, obviously makes sense to come with Bumblebee Man's house. No other one, if that makes sense. John, obviously Cockamamie's, which is the store that he works at. That makes sense. Just Stamp the Ticket Man. Now, you might be thinking, Maud Flanders, she makes sense to come with the Leftorium. Now, that wouldn't be a terrible combo, Maud Flanders with a Leftorium. I think I'd be fine with that, don't get me wrong. Obviously, that one makes perfect sense. However, I think there's a building that Maud Flanders should come with more so. And we'll get onto that in a minute. So just Stump the Ticket Man. I think a good building for him to come with is the Leftorium. I think that's the perfect building for him. It's the one where we first saw him, and it's kind of the origin of his name. It's the joke. So yeah, why not have just Stump the Ticket Man come with a Leftorium. And then Email can come with Winner's Pizza. Again, it's just a random combination really. We never really see Email there, but yeah. Just honestly, it's just random. It's purely random, but makes sense. You can make it make sense. Ham, obviously, could come with Cud Radio because we know that his name comes from the fact that he likes ham radios and building ham radios. So, radio, Cud Radio, yeah. I think it's a fun connection. I think it could work. I think someone else came up with that. I don't think it was me. Someone else came up with this combination, I feel like. So, I think it might have been Uta or Ruth Powers in the Discord. One of them, anyway. Charlie. So, Charlie, again, could come with that temple that Apu's mother comes with. But I think a fun one for him to come with is the Bangalore nuclear power plant. Just because he gets shooted off to India, anyway, from Mr. Burns. So, maybe he was sent there to help them, to help run this power plant or whatever. Yeah, I think it's a decent combination, Charlie with this. So yeah, why not? Jaffe could come with the flapjack stack, which we see right here. Again, it's purely random. I'm just picking like restaurants or places that they would reasonably be, and that's all we can really do with the kids because there's no other buildings that they come with unless there's like a place that we know, unless we have their house or we have like a place that we know that they frequently go to. Honestly, for the kids, any sort of building that makes somewhat sense, as to they could be, going there to eat, is fine enough for me. So, Jaffe with the flapjack stack makes perfect sense. Alex Whitney, obviously Donna's party supplies. We see her go there to get party supplies, so makes sense. Bashir bin Laden obviously has to come with the Bin Laden house, which we see right here. So, yeah. Oh, actually, with Alex Whitney, she could also come with Dingo Junction, which is the Dash Dingo store. Obviously, that's where she gets her new clothes. So, actually, I think that one might be better, to be honest. Either of them, though, are fine. But yeah, Bashir bin Laden with his house. Obviously, that one makes sense. The Seven Duffs. Okay. So, this is the only one where I have a repeat. Oh, I apologise. But Seven Duffs. There's 7 of them, and this is tricky. But the only really one that I definitely feel like should, for sure, be added as a full playable character is Sleazy. Surly, not Sleazy. Surly should be added as a character. And I think the perfect building for Surly to go with is the barrel roll. Now, we obviously have part of Duff Gardens in the game, but we don't actually have the barrel roll, which is the roller coaster. So obviously here's the sign where Surly says, you see the barrel roll, and this is kind of part of it here. You can see the big thing. So I feel like they should just make it one big building, a bit like the Tooth Chipper. Make it a big roller coaster and have it come with Surly. But then there's obviously the Duff Days Fair Parade with all the different stalls and stuff that we see in there. And they could come with numerous other Duffs. Obviously, I didn't want to have to put up all the different stalls. I actually have a 7 Duffs idea video, I think. Or it's a Duff event. I'll try and link it. Where I actually add all 7 of these guys with a separate building. But there's actually like 9 Duffs, really, because they show a few others in the later seasons. And plus, Surly has like a wife and children as well. But yeah, any of the Duff Days buildings, or they could just add the Duff Days Fair as one big building. They could add these guys with that. And obviously, this is a repeat from the Joe, but we obviously have the Duff Capital City Brewery, which is right here. And again, one of those guys could come with this as well. So yeah, honestly, there's lots of buildings, Duff-related stuff that they could come with. I could have listed more, but these are just some of the things that we have here. But obviously there is 7 of them, so I didn't really want to have to find 7 buildings. I couldn't be bothered, but here's a few ideas anyway. The Weasels could come with Pest By. Now this is a building in Shelbyville, and it was shown that they moved to Shelbyville, and they are kind of pests, they're Nelson's little minions. So it was a weird connection, but I feel like Pest By would actually not be a terrible building for them to come with, to be honest. Barry McElberry with the Springfield Toxic Waste Dump. I think that one makes perfect sense. Obviously, he works at the power plant. Oh, God. Then we got Martin Prince Sr. Now, to be honest, I kind of would want Martin's old house, which we see in the game, which we saw in the show kind of like many times. And I kind of like the look of Martin's old house more so than this one. But this is like Martin's updated house. And I feel like if they were to add Martin Prince Sr. with the Prince house, they're probably going to add this version of the Prince house. And this version of the Prince house is boring. I would want the older version, but there you have it. Sara Sloane, or Sloane, whatever. She could come with Springfield's Four Seasons, which is right here, just a hotel that she actually stays at the Four Seasons, but I feel like Four Seasons might have copyright issues. I don't know if Springfield Four Seasons would make it any different, but we'll see. They could always rename it the 5 Seasons, Springfield 5 Seasons or something, just to get around the whole copyright thing. Larry Burns obviously should come with Souvenirs, which is right here, which is his souvenirs shop, and obviously it's spelt wrong as well, so no, we're not worried about any repeats. But this is where he works at before he kind of finds Mr. Burns, so that makes sense. Sylvia Winfield and Mr. Winfield. Now, Sylvia Winfield and Mr. Winfield have been shown to live across the street from The Simpsons, next to The Simpsons in the Brown House, and also down the road from The Simpsons. So their house is debatable as to where they actually live before they eventually move out. Obviously, in their move-out episode, they live in the Powell House, aka the Brown House, but then we got the Powell House as a separate building, even though it is meant to be the Brown House. So I think for that reason, we could get a separate Winfield house. Because obviously the Brown House doesn't have the rocking chair anyway, so I feel like a good thing for them to come with would be the Winfield house, which you can kind of see one here. This is a version of it. And obviously it has a little rocking chair, which I think could be a big thing for their little animations. So that makes sense for them to come with that. George Bush Sr. Now, George Bush Sr. is Now, we've already got his house, the house that he moves into in the game, the presidential estate, obviously. That's already been added, and it's a real shame that he couldn't be added with that. Now, George Bush Sr. is obviously a real-life person, and normally they don't add living real-life people. Now, obviously, when Tap Tap began, he was alive, and obviously a few years ago, he passed away, George Bush Sr. Now, they may probably want to leave it a few more years before they add him into the game, and that's fine. But honestly, this is the only president I feel like should come with the White House. The White House we still haven't got in the game, and I think this guy, George Bush Sr., he's the only character who should come with it. And you might be saying, why? Is it because you like George Bush Sr. in real life? No. It's because George Bush Sr. is the best president within The Simpsons. And what do I mean by that? I mean that in terms of all the presidential appearances we've seen in the show, he's the most prominent one. He's the most memorable one. He's the best one. And I think for that reason, because they've already added the presidential estates in the game, so he can't come with that, I think he should come with a White House. I think he's the only president who deserves to come with a White House. Because they could add, like, say if they were to add Joe Biden in the game and they added him with the White House, you'd say, well, that makes sense because he's the current president. Sure. Or if they were to say they never added Washington. Actually, no, Washington wasn't the first president, was he? Who was the first president who lived in the White House? I don't remember. But, if they were to add the first president who lived in the White House, that one could kind of make sense. Maybe I'd be cool with that. But honestly, George Bush Sr., I feel like he needs to come with the White House. Bill and Marty. Oh, this is another one. It's kind of like George Bush. Bill and Marty should have been added with KBBL radio. Obviously, that one would have made tons of sense, but they added KBBL radio in the friend prize, which was a massive mistake. So what could they come with? Well, building-wise, there is that one bar that we see them go to. We don't actually see the exterior of the bar. We just kind of see the interior, and they could add that as a tapped-out exclusive. Again, go check out my KBBL video for more information on that. And they also could come with like Cud Radio, which we see here with Ham. God, where is it? They could come with Cud Radio and just say like they've quit KBBL and they're working for Cud. They could add it with that. Or another thing is you've got the Wampum Wagon, which is the KBBL sort of wagon, which you see here. Or they could just come with the stand, so aka decorations. Either or, really. And I think I'd be fine with Cud. I'd be fine with either of these two. And I'd be fine with that bar that they're seeing in as well, if they were to make that like a tapped out exclusive. Richard, I think there's like a mention of Zerts in the game. I think it gets mentioned in the quest line, and I feel like this might be the building they will add Richard with, which is just a sort of family dessert restaurant. That's my prediction. I think Spring King pointed out, so obviously credit to him for that theory, or was it Uta, one of them anyway, in the Discord. But yeah, this is a great building for Richard to come with. Makes sense. I mean, honestly, any sort of restaurant or child-related building would make sense to come with Richard. Arpu's Octoputlets make sense to obviously come with the Octo Sapiens exhibit, which is in the zoo. I'm so triggered that they never added the Octoputlets in the zoo update. That actually so annoyed me. And even like the Freak Show update, they could have added them there as well, as a part of as an exhibit, because they kind of were. I'm not trying to say they are freaks. What I'm trying to say is that they were presented as freaks in the episode, so it makes sense, for them to come with that update. And yeah, I definitely want Arpu's Octoputlets as separate characters in the game. I think that makes sense. I feel like you get away with the controversy anyway, with the whole Arpu controversy, just because these guys aren't even voiced anyway, so it doesn't make, it's not like they're voiced by non-whites, by white people, because they're babies, so they're not voiced anyway. But yeah, I think that's a good building for them to come with. Eddie Muntz. Oh god, speaking of the Freak Show, this is another character who should have been added in the Freak Show update. Obviously, why he was not added is beyond me. But Eddie Muntz obviously makes sense to come with the Freak Show stand, which we see right here. Yeah, I don't like it. He would have been perfect for the Freak Show update. And it's so annoying that I even have to say this, but like, there's a Freak Show stand right here that he could come with. So yeah, makes sense for him to come with that. Gil, I think a good building for Gil to come with is the Springfield bus station. He's been seen to live in the bus station before, so makes sense. Maud Flanders, the perfect building for her is the Springfield Speedway. And why is that? Because that's where she dies. Yes, I think the Speedway is more perfect than the Leftorium. Why? Because A, the Speedway is an awesome-ass building that I want to see in the game, and B, when you think of Maud Flanders, you don't think of her helping out Ned at the Leftorium. You think of her dying, and this is where she dies. So that's why I think this building is a better building for Maud to come with than the Leftorium. And then finally, number one is obviously Lionel Hutch, Trevor Claw, and Lionel Lanley. And which buildings do I think they should come with? Well, I've got three for you. We've obviously got Troy McClaw's house, which is right here. That would make sense for if they were to ever add Troy. Not Troy. Lionel. Yeah, Troy. Yeah, Troy. Lionel Hutch obviously makes sense to come with. I can't believe it's a law firm, which is his law firm, which is right here. And Lyle Lanley could come with the Lyle Lanley Institution, or Institute, which is right here. And obviously, this is kind of like a fictional building. Like, I think it says that it's not actually the Lyle Lanley Institute, because we find out that the Lyle Lanley Institute is just a trailer. But I feel like he could come with that trailer as well. Either one, really. But this is definitely... it would be cool if he came with this big-ass building too, though. So that could be kind of cool. But obviously, these 3 characters are all Phil Hartman characters, so they probably would not be added. That's why I've combined them, just because there's no point adding them separately. They're all in the same realm. Because they're Phil Hartman characters, they probably won't be added. And they could add the buildings separately. Like, they could add these buildings in the game anyway. Which I probably... To be honest, I don't think I want. I don't really want either 3 of these buildings in the game if they're not going to come with the characters they should come with. I just don't want the buildings. That's right, I said it. And then my bonus is Bender, obviously, which I had in my top 100. My little bonus one is Bender. For years, I used to have Bender on my list because I thought that there was some hope that we could get him. And eventually, I came to terms that there is no hope. We're never going to get Bender in the game. So I think Bender would be in my top 10, like, realistically. And I consider him a Simpsons character just because, although there's the crossover episode, he actually appears like in quite a few little cameos before that anyway. Plus, he's the biggest one in the crossover episode as well. So a building for him to come with is the Planet Express headquarters, which obviously we see right here within The Simpsons. So, yeah. And that is it in terms of my top 100 building combos. So I've shown you probably about 100 buildings with some decorations mixed in. But let me know any buildings that you would like to see in the game that have not yet been added. Love to hear. And yeah, maybe I could do in a year's time. Maybe I could do 100 more builders. Let me know if you like this as well. Let me know if you like this format of doing doing 100 characters and then doing the combos. I'd like to see your opinions on it. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.